Okay, good morning everyone. So first of all, apologies for this delay. There has been some technical issues, so we are just trying to overcome it, and I hope now it's all fine. So let's get into the session. So what is the agenda? What is the objective of today's session? So this is not a session where I would be just simply giving you a plan of action for the next 100 days, right? Because I'm sure you have your own plan of action, and you have already made so many such plans and timetables for the last so many months or so many years, right? So I believe that preparation of a person is very, very individualized. It's very personal, right? So even if I were to give you a timetable for 10 hours, how do you split 10 hours a day? If I were to give a timetable, I don't even think, unless you are motivated and unless you have understood the correctness of this schedule, you are going to follow it, right? So we will not be indulging in any such activities, and neither am I going to promise you that the next 100 days is all that it is to make you crack this examination. No, the next 100 days is just the very same as the last 200 days. Right. So I don't really see any big difference in the nature of preparation in the next 100 days. I can only see that the next 100 days can be a reason to up the game. It can be a reason to keep your motivation levels higher, right? And for that, certain set of activities have to be done, right? So sometimes I used to wonder, maybe if I would have been better prepared before giving my first mains, if only I was better prepared, probably I wouldn't have had to give a second mains, right? So this is some regret that I always carry, in the sense I know that I didn't utilize the best of my time, so there is always a regret. But at the same time, when I look back in the hindsight, I'm able to actually relish the thought. I'm able to understand that it's that 100 days between prelims and mains which actually taught me how intensive I can go with respect to this preparation, right? Because until prelims got over, I was always in the mindset that it's not possible to go beyond 8 to 10 hours of study and all that. But it's only when you're hard pressed of time, the gap between prelims and mains, just that 100 days where you have to cover so much of syllabus, it actually taught to me about myself. It taught to me that there are occasions where I can even stretch it up to 14 hours a day, right? So what I'm trying to say is, the next 100 days can be a very good way to learn about yourself. It can be a very good way to learn about your suitability for this exam itself, if certain steps are done in the right direction. And it is to talk to you about those right steps, what those right directions actually mean. I would want that to be made as the agenda of today's session, right? So I would just want to have an interaction with you about why cracking prelims is both easy as well as difficult at the same time. Okay, so in my opinion, I would say that prelims, cracking it is easy if only you can crack CSAT paper. That's the first principle, that's like the first funda, right? If only you are in a position to crack CSAT paper today, you are in the top 1 lakh aspirants in this country. But not many are even aware whether they are in a position to crack CSAT or not, unless they have already gotten a taste of CSAT paper. And especially if you are a fresher who's just going to give your very first attempt, you would be probably not be very sure whether you would crack CSAT or you have some weakness in that, right? And the first prelims will give you a reality check of that. So that's why, if only you are among the talent pool of aspirants who can crack CSAT, you are anyway in the top 10% of India's applicants. And out of this 1 lakh, trust me, 15,000 people are going to be selected for mains. So which means that there is a 15% probability. A 15% probability of making it, just if you are good with CSAT, right? And a lot of us give a tremendous amount of importance, an undue weightage of importance to general studies paper, because we always associate civil service exam with knowledge acquisition, with knowledge of polity, economy, history, geography. That's our common trend. But we don't understand all these knowledge do not even have any utility in this exam unless you crack CSAT paper. And somebody who's very good with GS but who is very poor in CSAT, right? Such an aspirant will not only crack CSAT, civil service exam, importance that needs to be given to CSAT, which is going to be the deciding factor, at least for prelims, right? So I'll come to this. I'll come to what should be a strategy with CSAT. I'll just come in a couple of minutes. But before that, let me just prove it to you that it is actually easy. See, I'm sure you would have seen on YouTube so many thumbnail images where aspirants, there are so many people who say attempted 7 prelims, cleared all 7 prelims, attempted 6 prelims, cleared all 6 prelims, right? So which means that actually it is easy. It should be a cause for you to celebrate that, okay, there are people who can consecutively clear prelims, right? And they may end up not clearing mains and interview and all that. That's a problem of later stages. But cracking prelims, they were just simply able to do that. Okay, why? It's because they were doing a very normal stuff in the next 100 days. They were not doing anything extraordinary. Once Napoleon Bonaparte, when he was asked about what does he consider to be the trait of a genius, right? And Napoleon's answer was very simple. A man who does the most commonest thing when everybody else around him is losing their mind, right? So that's the hallmark of genius. And I actually feel that's so true with respect to all 3 phases of this examination. You don't have to be anything special or extraordinary than the others, right? You only have to be yourself. You only have to be normal. Others themselves will do all wrong actions, wrong efforts will be done in the last 100 days. As the end comes closer and closer, people will push themselves out of the race, right? You have to just simply do the set prescribed methods of preparation, just on and on until the day you crack this examination. Very simple, right? So that's why I would say that cracking prelims need not be that difficult. Okay, and why and how can you make it not so difficult? I'll just discuss about it later. Okay, so this is the easy part of prelims. Now coming to the difficult part of prelims. There is just so many areas to prepare, right? There are just so many different subjects, 7 plus different core subjects to prepare for. And there are just so many resources today available for you guys to prepare from. So that's why in your study room, the resources just keeps on piling one after the other, right? And just as the examination comes closer and closer, when you look at the resources not yet studied, you feel that you're not even prepared 50% for this examination, because every book seems to be very fresh, right? You have all the big list of standard books, plus you have your coaching materials, plus you have every other PDFs that you would have collected, compilations, right? It just seems like everybody is going mad reading everything here and there, something everybody has to read, right? But let me tell you, there is a method in this madness, right? When you look things too close, it all seems to be very, very daunting. It seems to be quite scary. Okay, but when you just slightly distance yourself from all the commotion that's happening around you, and when you see it with clarity, you will find that there is actually a pathway through all these maze of study materials. Okay, so the necessity to read and master excessively large number of subjects in a short span makes this exam slightly difficult. And the next aspect that makes this exam difficult is it's the quickness, it's the pace at which UPSC's question paper changes in the last 2 to 3 years. Okay, the nature of questions that are asked undergoes a significant amount of change. So let's say from 2010 to 2015, right? The pace with which question paper would have changed in terms of its trickiness of the questions, in terms of the structure of options framed, the pace would have been slow, but now the pace is very fast. So the methods that may have applied, may have been useful, a year ago, right? If you cannot arrive at your own method from your own understanding of UPSC, and if you feel that whatever you learn about UPSC is something borrowed from others, you cannot keep pace. You cannot keep pace with the pace with which UPSC's questions, nature of question paper actually undergoes a change. So that's why you have to yourself be on the toes. You have to always talk to UPSC. UPSC talks to you in the form of its previous year's questions, right? And when you very consciously, when you start looking into the questions, when you are able to actually understand the language of UPSC through its questions on a regular basis, that's a way how you are actually evolving constantly, right? So the nature of question paper, the nature of questions, options framed also undergoes a faster change in the last 2 to 3 years. But I'm not saying that this is something that is undecipherable. Every year people continuously crack prelims, right? So it's maybe these kind of factors, and also CSAT itself, right? In the last 2 years at least, we have so many IITians who are failing in CSAT paper, right? It is a truth. I simply just don't want to say the names and identities of people, but even I find it hard to believe. And the reason for such failures is simply because CSAT is again a game of emotions. Well, you could have extraordinary great intelligence quotient from which you have developed school days and IIT and all that, but you are simply just not able to restrain yourself emotionally. You are simply not able to be calm at the moment of the exam and only sift through the questions which are possible, only pick battles that you can win. Instead of that, you have been simply not able to let go of a problem that you have started. Okay, this happens, right? Especially people from very prestigious institutions who feel that they are very good with maths, problem solving. What happens is they take up a question, just that they cannot digest their inability to arrive at an answer. They keep on wasting 5 minutes, 6, 7 minutes on a single question, and this happens. If only they could have diverted their attention to other easy parts of the question paper. Definitely every year in CSAT, there are at least 8 to 10 questions where you don't even have to put your pen on the paper. Just thinking logically for that, without any extreme concepts of maths being applied, right? It's fine, but still 8 to 10 questions at least you can get it right. Your ability is simply to figure out what those 8 to 10 questions are, and that's why you write all these test series and all of that. Because if you were to ask me personally, I would say that no matter what classes you take with CSAT with respect to problem solving, quantitative skills and all of that, there is only a certain threshold to which you can actually improve, right? You need to already have had a certain kind of a mathematical training, problem solving training. Okay, I'm not saying this is only confined to engineering students. No, I have seen students from sociology background, students from economics background who perform really well in the maths part. All I'm just simply trying to say is that ability to deconstruct a problem, it can only be increased to a certain threshold from the different lectures and from your practice sessions and all of that, right? So don't be simply obsessed into thinking that the more I practice, the more and more questions I practice, every question from that particular area I'll be able to get it right on the day of the exam. No, you cannot. So understanding that reality itself is the first step towards cracking CSAT. But that's why I'm saying that in all the upcoming test series that you would be facing in the upcoming months, make it a point to figure out that every test, whether I get complex questions right or not, at the end of the test, I should be in a position that I have spotted all the easy questions and I have got them right. Correct? That question spotting ability, if it develops in the next 100 days, will give you at least another 20 marks in your CSAT paper. The reason why I say so is, the minute you sit in the hot seat in the day of prelims, the ability to calmly look through questions and figure out which is workable, which is unworkable, just would disappear. Right? You are stressed, you are tensed, you are operating under the pressure of time. Okay, so that is when this kind of a training that you're going to undergo in the next 100 days, where you become good with question spotting, which is possible, right? That will come to your help, give you continuous set of questions right, which will keep your morale higher, right? So that's why this emotional game that actually happens in the CSAT paper, it requires you to always remain at a certain state of level of motivation, right? The minute you start feeling nervous, exam is gone. It's to train you to hold your nerves. It's for that I ask you to do this exercise in every test. Because usually what happens is, as a part of the CSAT paper, CSAT practice, students, what do? They don't look at a question paper in its entirety. They only take 5 questions and they start working out. It's such a microscopic obsession which cannot actually help you on the day of the exam, right? But if you look at the overall paper, a full test CSAT paper, and you only work in the half an hour or 45 minutes is, okay, I will not attempt this, I will not attempt this, this question seems to be fine, let me just work it down, right? You will be surprised to find that definitely there are 8 to 10 questions every year. Please build this skill first, right? Because I wouldn't actually have great hopes in saying that in the next 100 days, work out ratio proportions, become good with number theory, become great with permutations and combinations. Okay, so for some people it may come naturally, and for those for whom it doesn't come naturally, you are still not out of the race. You are in the race. You just have to figure out how you can still be in the race. Okay, it's because this 8 to 10 questions will come to your support, but in that case you should be tremendously good with reading comprehension, right? So find out what is your way of managing CSAT paper. The 23 CSAT paper was the most difficult CSAT paper ever. Okay, 24 is only almost equal or slightly lesser than the standard of 23. So which shows that UPSC is expecting a certain level of aptitude proficiency in aspirants. So do not let that area go unaddressed. So number 1, right? And let me not get into how you can start addressing all of this. I'm sure that is why you have had elaborate lectures around the year for multiple years, how it can all be addressed. And again, it's not something that is only confined to the next 100 days, because how do you develop reading comprehension? Just there are 2 or 3 ways for that. Everyday reading newspaper, everyday reading a standard textbook, right? Because a lot of aspirants, and I would say UPSC is very correct in keeping the level of CSAT paper a bit high. The reason is because a lot of aspirants, they are now getting used to reading everything in point format, just some 10 points, point, memorize it. They do not know how to maintain the endurance and stamina of reading complex sentences, right? Why? Because the habit of reading newspapers is simply just going away. And UPSC is reinforcing the idea that you have to have a certain level of reading proficiency, without which tomorrow you cannot do your work as a bureaucrat. It's as simple as that. You take an income tax act and you read the provisions, right? The law is written in a very complicated language. Okay, it's so, just one sentence can just go on for half a page or 1 page with all compound words added to that, right? So for that, so tomorrow if you have to work as an IRS officer, you need that English skills to read and comprehend it. Okay, if not English, at least Hindi, you should be able to read so well and understand, because the act will also be in Hindi also, right? So for us, let's say English skills are necessary, and tomorrow as a bureaucrat, your actions are going to be law driven. You're going to base your actions upon existing laws, and at a very, very fast pace, you have to simply read an entire law and figure out which provision should I apply to a particular scenario. Okay, this is a problem, and for this problem I have 3 legal solutions, right? All that has to happen at a very fast pace, because you have so many departments as an IAS officer to head over, right? There are some 15-20 departments for which all decisions come to you. Swiftness in taking decisions requires you to have a certain level of reading ability, and that is exactly what UPSC is insisting and testing through CSAT paper, right? So I hope you have your methods intact so as to crack CSAT paper. Just cracking CSAT paper is going to make your not only going to push you into mains this year. If only you can crack CSAT, and after you, even if you don't clear general studies, when you talk to your friends, right, you find in your estimation you have certain friends who you feel are very smart, very intelligent, right? Trust me, you will feel happy about yourself that when such a person is not able to crack CSAT and you are able to crack CSAT, it will reinforce you that in you that aptitude skill is something that you actually possess. GS is after all a matter of time. Some of you may have invested last 2 years into preparation, so your content availability is actually, it could be a bit higher, right? Somebody would have only started their preparation 6 months back, so naturally the content availability might be lesser, but that can be improved through a lot of taking tests and getting exposed to new areas. All I'm saying is, cracking CSAT will keep you in this race. It will not push you out of the race, because after 2-3 attempts, the most commonest grievance with which aspirants come and talk to me is that, sir, I'm not even able to crack CSAT. Should I even continue in this preparation? Right? So that's why having a strategy to crack CSAT will ensure you remain in this race. Build one in the next 100 days. And this approach is a very fine way of building a strategy. Right? At least if you can do this, you can be assured that you will not fail in CSAT miserably. You will fail in CSAT probably less than, maybe you would have got around 60 marks. If only you can do this and get RC questions right. Okay. And the reason why mathematics has become extremely difficult in the last 2 years is for the same reason that even IITians who may be good with, or those from very good engineering colleges, or those from very good problem solving background, you cannot hope to simply crack CSAT only with mathematical skills and knowledge. You need to have a certain level of reading comprehension ability as well. That is what UPSC is ensuring. So just don't leave any area unaddressed. Okay. My philosophy is simple. My philosophy is that you have to just prepare for all areas. To what extent you prepare each area, that can vary between aspirants. Right? You cannot simply just close your eyes to one particular area in this exam and still hope to crack this exam. That's not going to work out at all. It can work out for 1 or 2 exceptions. Exceptions are not examples. Right? You can immediately start suspecting me by saying, no, yesterday in my study hall I met a senior who said he only focused on maths and he cleared CSAT. Right? One of a kind. Okay, you need not be that one of a kind. So let's study how generally aspirants crack this examination. It's by focusing all areas of CSAT again. Okay, and reading comprehension, it comes at least in the next 100 days. Please start reading your textbooks. Please start reading newspapers. Do not think that somebody would have even put this thought in your mind that in the next 100 days current affairs may not come in prelims. So there's no point of reading newspapers. So save that time. Every skill that you have is a result of sustained continuous training and practice. Okay, so even if today I were to stop reading for 1 year, I don't think I can read with the same efficiency after 1 year. I have to always keep my mind exercised, my mind trained. Everything is a virtue of training. Similarly, do not give up on the practice of reading newspaper in the next 100 days, hoping that you can actually save time and you are the only smartest genius in this country who has got this brainy idea now. No. That's why I say that there is no difference between the next 100 days and the last 200 days. Right? If you have been reading newspaper in the last 200 years, that is supposed to be continued in the next 100 days as well. And that is what is going to help you with your reading comprehension ability. Right? In addition, see, looking at a passage of previous year's questions is good. It can give you some kind of a stimulation, can give you that kick that, okay, wow, I got it right in 2 minutes. Right? So that reinforcement, it can definitely serve its purpose. Right? But that alone is not a training. The training comes in the form of 10 hours of reading a day. So that's why 10 hours of reading from your NCERT textbooks. Even your 6th standard NCERT, if you read, it will improve your reading comprehension. Okay. So 1 hour of newspaper reading improves your reading comprehension. Why do I insist on this? Is simply because of the fact that when I come and when I stand before an audience, a students, freshers of 200 students in a class, hardly 5 to 10 people read newspapers every day. And that is even in the month of August, September, October, during those months. So as the prelims comes closer and closer, many aspirants would simply just give up on that. So if you give up on that, RC is gone. If RC is gone, CSAT is gone, your motivation, morale in this exam is gone, you will soon quit this examination. Right? So continue the good habits as you are doing it in the next 100 days as well. Let it help you in your CSAT paper. All right. So now coming to general studies. So talking about general studies, there are two components to it. There are two components to how you get more than 90 marks or 100 marks. So how do you achieve this? There are two components. The first primary component is knowledge. Okay. The next component I would call as certain abilities. The first foundation for cracking this exam lies in having correct knowledge. Okay, this is irreplaceable. Okay, without this, you cannot actually move on to the point of skills. That all those so-called elimination, deduction, and all those methods, UPSC can simply make a question paper very difficult that all your strategies will be eliminated. Okay, UPSC is capable of doing that. So do not even hope that without knowledge you can work, you can improve your elimination selection skills and you will be able to make through prelims. No, knowledge is irreplaceable. How do you acquire this knowledge is the point here, right? There are certain kinds of knowledge which can be self-taught. It can be self-learned from books. And then there are certain types of knowledge which is better if taught by a faculty, right? And then there are certain types of knowledge which just comes to you as certain flashes, right? It just simply comes in moments to you in the form of discussing with your friends, some mentor of yours. When you take a question paper and you give it to him, you are not able to get a question right, and when he is able to get it right, and when you observe carefully how is he able to get it right, maybe he has one particular idea about that topic which you may not actually have had earlier, right? So such kind of discussions, such kind of influences, right, from your peers, from such discussions, right? So all of these is also another way of acquiring the right knowledge. Okay, so you need to actually know this difference. Right. So for example, I'll just give you some examples for that. So what knowledge can be self-taught, right? So let's say, what is the composition of Lok Sabha? What is the composition of Rajya Sabha? You know, those kind of the first level of knowledge. It can easily be self-taught. It can be self-learned from your NCRTs and from your standard textbooks, right? Plus, if you can subject yourself to tests, there can be more refinement of this knowledge as well. You will start going to certain second levels. Okay, what does Article 81 exactly talk about the composition of Lok Sabha, right? So to that extent, you can actually start getting into it. Okay, what does the Constitution exactly mandate about the process of delimitation, process of representation? How many seats? In what principle is it given in Article 80 or 81? Right? So those kind of fine details, you can get into that in the form of assessments. Once you get the basic ideas, assess yourself, learn your shortcomings, now get to the depths, right? But then there are certain ideas which have to be taught by a faculty, simply because a faculty has so many years of training. Okay, they have spent more time than you in going through certain areas and depths, so they are well informed and their content is in a structured manner. So such kind of ideas, for example, all discussions around judicial activism, okay, or when it comes to elections, I would say that your Lakshmikant is not self-explanatory. There is just more information that you don't need with elections that you find in Lakshmikant than what you actually need. That is where a faculty's role can come in, right? What aspects of representation of People's Act should be focused. If a faculty can actually bring those perspectives to you correctly, that becomes a usable knowledge in your examination. Whereas everything given in Lakshmikant on elections, I would say it's mostly useless, right? Similarly, judicial activism as well, there is a method to learn it. There is a method to introduce case laws. There is a method to help you extract takeaways from certain case laws. So that is where I would say the role of faculty comes. That has happened in your classes. Okay, and if you need more such assistance in certain areas, so go to faculties, talk about it in the next 100 days. If not a faculty, some of your friends who are also equally as well informed as a faculty can also be of assistance here. Understand that there are certain areas which needs to be covered in this manner. Okay, for example, I'll tell you, nowadays in the last 2 to 3 years, when it comes to ancient India, the questions asked from Buddhism and Jainism, they are getting a bit deeper. They're asking about the different schools of Buddhism, right? I think one of the year there was a question asked, the Mahasangika school, which flourished in India around the 5th century. Okay, in which part of India was it actually flourishing? You know, such kind of questions are all asked. So you need to actually first of all be aware that there is a school called as Mahasangika school, right? So similarly, there are just so many philosophical aspects of Hinduism itself, right? So all those aspects, you know, when you read your book yourself, right, how many of you are very clear about the difference between Advaita and Vishishtadvaita, right? What is that missing link in Advaita which is actually fulfilled in Vishishtadvaita, right? You see, if you're not able to get this answer right, it means that you may have to have some assistance in this area. Like that, in every subject there could be so many areas where a faculty's assistance can make your journey easier, right? And this assistance is what comes in the form of test discussions. And it's a sorry state of affairs to see that students are simply attending tests, hardly very few of them are left behind in the discussion halls. Because a lot of students, they start thinking whatever is there in the answer key is what is sufficient for me, right? But trust me, when you sit in the discussion class and faculty comes, and definitely when the crowd is larger, when there are 50, 100 students sitting in the discussion hall, when some questions are asked to the faculty, it will lead to certain kind of discussions. New areas to think, new directions to think will all be opened up before you, right? So that continuous thought triggering also has to happen. Okay, continuous thought triggering, so that after the discussion, when you start walking to your room, your mind is completely occupied with what has gone into the class. See, it's like it's a very enjoyable process. I don't think that there was a single moment when I was scared, when I was bored, right? It was like as if UPSC was just simply life. Everything that happens, right? So when I walk with a friend to just have a cup of coffee or a tea, we both walk in silence. And we both know that there is something going on in our mind. Maybe when we start drinking our tea, that thought can just come out in the form of some topic for discussion, right? So you have to make the preparation process just engulf every moment of your life. It need not be so effortful. It's so effortless an activity. Because why? Because you are on the constant pursuit of knowledge acquisition. Okay, this has to happen first. Okay, it's only when the foundation of knowledge is good, only then all thinking and reflections and establishing connections, all of that can even materialize, right? So knowledge acquisition has to happen through all these stages. So none of this is negotiable. You cannot eliminate one and focus on the other. It's all going to happen hand in hand. While you read polity, when you become good with what is the procedure to pass a money bill, what is the procedure to pass an ordinary bill, that you can learn from Lakshmikant, right? But test discussions will drive this point to you about which range of articles in the constitution do money bill provisions come. Okay, with respect to budget, it starts from 112, goes on till 116, right? Those are budgetary provisions. So if that is the case, then money bill provision should be there before 112. 110 talks about the definition of money bill. So somewhere in and around 110 should be located the procedure for passage of money bill. You know, those kind of connections will only come in the form of tests and discussions, right? Take tests, sit in the discussion. It is definitely useful to you, right? You are not going to really save time by not attending the tests. Not attending the discussion part. Okay. So focus on the right methods of knowledge acquisition. It again starts with certain ability. It's all interconnected. What is the ability here? To know which books to read, right? And to know which books to read, I'm not asking you to simply open YouTube and look into toppers videos one after the other and see. Almost all toppers from 30 years back till today, they'll all refer the same textbooks. Okay, nobody suggests a unique textbook, because at least for prelims sake, I don't see any uniqueness in the nature of resources alone can help you crack this exam. Okay, so you yourself know what the textbooks are, right? But how do you read the textbooks? Because for example, history, you shouldn't read it in a very microscopic way. Okay, you cannot say that let me take only Swadeshi movement and I'll master everything about Swadeshi movement. It doesn't happen like that. History has to be read in a chronological manner. It has to be read connecting to every contemporaneous event that has taken place. Everything is like parallel stories happening, and all the parallel stories, they all come merged together. But for polity, you can simply take Manipal as one standalone provision, and you can read whatever is there in Lakshmikant only about Manipal and still make sense of it, right? So the ability to know how to proceed with every different subject is also important for this examination, right? That comes again with experimentation. So you try reading history. You just simply take Swadeshi movement and you read it. After 5 days, see how much of that information are you even able to remember. You may not be able to remember. You may not be able to remember, right? But when you read it in a chronological manner, when you see the differences between extremists and moderates slowly picking up as they become distant from each other, and how Swadeshi is going to be like the final nine which splits them totally. You know, when it is all read in its context, in its entirety, the connections are much more meaningful. The connections are deep. It is usable on the day of the examination, right? Whereas I wouldn't be suggesting the same for environment, just because I've been analyzing the question papers of the previous years, right? To know about animal behavior of a particular animal, you don't have to start from what are microscopic animals and how did amoeba develop into all complex forms. All those evolution in the forward direction, you don't have to read. You can simply take slender loris, right? Search on Wikipedia, whatever information you get there, search some 2-3 resources. You just need to be first aware that there is a species called slender loris for which you have to actually make some search. That is where your compilations can come to your rescue, right? I'm not asking you to simply bank upon compilations. Compilations can bring to your awareness, these are the animals for which you have to know some knowledge, okay? But a lot more has to be done on your own side. Again, this is an ability to know that compilations can be handy in giving me a quick glance at all the topics. But I shouldn't confine my preparation to compilations. Why? Last 2-3 years, a lot of students, after the examination is over, the first concern of theirs is all the time I spent reading compilations has gone waste. You're wrong if you blame somebody else in this preparation process. Nobody asked you to read compilations. Every topper would have done a certain set of activities. But who told you that the topper did not even browse a single word beyond the compilations, right? There is so much of things which are left unspoken by toppers year after year after they crack this exam. You only pick whatever is visible to you on the surface. Only some things are visible on the surface. They say that I read NCRTs, I read PT 365, whatever material they suggest, right? So they speak some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 activities. But what beyond that has gone into their preparation? They would have been very sincere in their test discussions. They would have been constantly having a very smart group of friends who are also like-minded like them, who would have naturally, each one of them would be pushing each other into the right direction, right course of preparation, right? So whenever there was a doubt, they would have spent time watching short videos, getting some ideas about that. So it is all these hidden work which just does not come to your eyes, which can be realized through your own experimentation. Again, that takes time, right? So that's why a minimum of 10 hours of preparation a day in the upcoming days is very, very crucial. Why? Because of the need for this experimentation, the need for sitting and making a plan and studying. See, even if you study 10 hours a day for the next 100 days, I can only tell you, you can become decently good with, let's say, if you have not even started polity or history or geography, right? If you make a timetable to study 10 hours a day and assuming that you read 5 pages an hour, because that is my effective rate of reading. I cannot read more than 5 pages an hour. So if I were to read 5 pages an hour, I'm very sure you can finish 50 pages in a day. So in 10 days, you will be able to probably finish a textbook. It could be whichever subject you choose, right? So I'm saying one textbook for spectrum alone can be finished in 10 days if you work on this method. Or Lakshmikant, the first reading of the textbook can be completed in 15 to 20 days, right? But then comes revisions, recalls, okay, refinements in your gaps in your learning, okay. So there is just a lot more layers to be built after that. All I'm saying is, even if you had to work for 10 hours, you can only successfully finish the first or second round of reading before your prelims. But that's no matter to be worried about. Even with that first round, second round or third round of reading, you still have a chance in prelims, if only you can crack CSAT again. So that's why I say that don't aim for perfection in preparation. Perfection is going to be the enemy of good when it comes to this exam. Okay, but in mains I would say the reverse. Good is the enemy of perfection. If you just think that you are good enough, you can never become perfect, and without perfection you cannot get into the top ranks, because marks in mains counts. Whereas for prelims it's all about the cutoff. You only need to just scrape through the cutoff mark. So that's why you don't have to aim for perfection. Be good with preparation, and being good with preparation is maybe 2 to 3 rounds of reading, right? So this can definitely be done in the next 100 days, even if you are completely new to these subjects. If you have only attended classes, beyond classes you haven't had the time to go to these textbooks and start reading each one of them. If you haven't done it, yes, it can be very well done in the next 100 days. See, why am I insisting on doing all of this? Because there are only 2 possibilities after the date of prelims, right? Once prelims is over, either you have made it or you have not made it, correct? So let's say 15,000 of them make it, and out of 15,000, to the interview 2,500 people make it. So another 12,500, they are once again pushed to the same pool. There isn't any difference between you or them, okay. And finally after the service only 1,000. So, and even among this 1,000, it's only those who get their service of their choice, maybe IAS or IAS, and very limited people in other services, they are contented with their service. So the remaining 80% of those will once again be repeating the process again, right? So do not be too concerned, too worried, too obsessed with that one day's examination. This should not be your concern at all. It's perfectly okay to not clear 6 prelims and make it to All India rank 1 to 10 in the 6th attempt, right? Instead of saying that I cleared all 7 prelims and not even once I was able to translate that into a success. That is the worst part. This is still, it's very good, because you have always been learning something to one day make your attempt a success, right? But what happens is, after this exam is over, if at all you are not able to make it, you need to actually, after the exam, you have to be in a position where you make the correct diagnosis about your failures, right? You need to be in a position to figure out, why did I not succeed in this attempt? And that can only happen after you are sure that whatever knowledge was required to have faced a particular question, I did have it. Despite that, maybe this is the gap I did not fill, so I failed. Whereas if you did not even have the knowledge, where will you put the blame on? Will you put the blame on absence of knowledge, or will you put the blame on absence of presence of mind? Will you put the blame, pin the responsibility on absence of your skill to connect between topics, to think laterally? Where will you fit the issue, fix the issue, right? So that is why failing is not a problem, but failing with a purpose is what you have to look at it, okay? See, the reality of the exam is such that the numbers are so few. There are only a few number of posts every year, right? So most aspirants will end up here. Not a problem at all. But understanding why requires you to have utilized the next 100 days in a certain manner. It is only for that purpose I am advising you to do all these acts. Because even I cannot promise you that you follow all this, you will crack this exam on coming May, right? Because that again depends on what you have been doing in the past. That's not simply a function of, after all, these 100 days. These 100 days are just a small part of your journey, right? So as I was telling you, go for the right knowledge acquisition. Okay, so that's point number 1. And with respect to abilities that you really need in addition to this knowledge, what would be those abilities? The abilities is to work out a strategy for you first. Right? Every year there are just so many variations of toppers. Some of them crack prelims by attending 90 plus questions. At the same time, there are toppers who will only attempt something around 65 to 70 questions in prelims. Okay, I can name them. There are toppers who do that. Okay, so you have to actually first figure out which strategy is going to work out for you. Right? You cannot simply assume that you have to attend all 90 plus questions. And let me give you some ways to figure out how you can find out which strategy can work well for you. Right? So let's say you are a fresher. In the last 1 year alone, you have been into this preparation process. Right? And you have been attending classes and every day 2 classes. So I understand that there would have been a very less amount of time in your hands for preparation. Right? If that is the case, you wouldn't be a master in all subjects. It's not going to work out like that. Right? So if you are a fresher with 1 year of preparation experience, maximum 2 years, right? 1 to 2 years of preparation. If that is the case, I would actually ask you to focus on select subjects in the upcoming 100 days. You cannot afford to scatter your attention to all subjects and just be superficial about everything. That is not going to work out for you. Right? Yes, you have attended classes, 15 classes on environment, 15 classes for science and tech. You would have attended, you would have had some exposure. But to what extent has it gone into you? What extent have you become proficient in those? It's a matter of investment of time. And since you have not done that, I believe you may not really be able to master this strategy, right? Okay, again, this is my generalization. There could be some unique exceptions. Right? But this is how I perceived myself when I was in this journey. Okay, so beginning, not possible to master everything. At least make efforts to master select subjects. It could be polity, history combination, or history, geography, or geography, environment and economy, all are interconnected. Right? It could be any combination. But make sure you master at least 2 subjects. So that definitely from any of these combinations you will have a minimum of 30 questions. Right? So that on the day of the examination, when you come out of the exam hall, you should have the satisfaction that I spent the last 100 days mastering these 2 subjects. I have done my best. I have put in all my efforts. And after prelims, now from the questions asked from these subjects, I was able to get 60% of them right. Wow, that's very good. Even in my very first attempt, I am able to achieve 60% of the total questions right from this combination simply because I had invested in time. If only you can get this realization, you will definitely crack prelims 1 year. But without this, if your attention is simply scattered everywhere, you go to prelims, you will hardly get 40 marks. It will be a very great demotivating factor. Every single day after your first prelims, you will question, am I suitable for this exam? Just with 40, how much will I improve? Once again, you will get into all wrong habits. Success in this exam is achieved through small doses of confidence building about your suitability for this examination. Right? So that is why this particular method is even being suggested to you right now. If you are a fresher, what you need immediately this year is not a success in prelims. You need that confidence that you can still one day crack prelims. In fact, it's a personal opinion of mine. If you're a complete fresher and with the present nature and demand of the question paper, if you have not become extremely good with your optional subject, I would even suggest to you, you don't even have to attempt this prelims. Because some aspirants, they feel that no, I need to get that exam feel. Right? You prepare for the next 100 days very intensively. Just on that one day, don't attend the exam. Right? People don't focus on the 100 days properly. They only focus on that one day of prelims. And as if this one day is deciding your life. No, not at all. Okay, it's this 100 days which is going to decide your life. So the point is, understand the complexity of this examination process itself. Understand the nature of intensive efforts that this examination requires. And if you still would choose to go and give an attempt to learn something out of the attempt. Okay, see, this is something I can give it in writing. If you are not great with optional today, and if you're not going to strengthen your optional and become great with optional in the next 100 days, you simply don't have your mains. Okay, and despite that, if you would want to give your prelims, fine, I would leave it to you, your discretion. But if you choose to give prelims, at least get some learnings, get some takeaways after you have appeared in your prelims. And this could be one really good takeaway, that whatever you study, you are better. Just because you didn't study certain areas, you are not able to perform well. Right? That realization should first come. You should start believing that cracking this exam is not a matter of luck. Cracking this exam is not because of some 10 different shortcuts told by 10 different people. No, it is directly correlated to the efforts and the amount of time that you have invested. It's simply that factor. Right? That conviction has to first come about this exam. That is, if you're a first year fresher, or you have just had around 2 years of exposure to this preparation process. 100 days can be a great learning about yourself, just like how I have told in the beginning of this interaction. Right? So if you have spent more amount of time, let's say from second year to fourth, or any number of sessions, right? In that case, again, it's not a straitjacket formula. You should start attempting 90 plus questions, but be only in these two categories. Only attempt 60 to 70 questions, or you go 90 plus. Do not get caught mindlessly in between. Right? So it depends again how much of preparation has gone into you, how much of right usable knowledge in the exam have you actually received from the last so many years of your preparation. All these factors will decide how you actually approach. Right? If you have been reading newspapers regularly, very religiously, and you're very good with current affairs, somebody who's good with current affairs should do this. But whereas somebody who reads newspaper, but if you feel that no matter what I read, I simply cannot remember all the government schemes. No matter what I read, there is always a problem in identifying a particular animal behavior of a particular species. So I tend to go wrong in all those kind of questions. It means that you have a problem with dynamism. You have a problem with questions asked out of certain standard concrete reading material. It's perfectly okay. I was one such person. Right? I cannot simply courageously go and attempt questions, even though I used to read newspapers very religiously. I enjoy reading newspapers, but just that I always feel that 4 options given, I simply always feel that what if 2 options asked from areas which I am not aware of, then as soon as I look at the question, my confidence just goes away. I would just run away from that question. Right? But that can happen only if you are very concrete and solid with Lakshmikant, history books, geography books. Okay, if that is the case, around 40 to 50 questions will only be asked from these subjects. Okay, and getting that mastery is also a function of time. 2 to 3 years, definitely possible. A fresher, to some extent it is possible. Right? So you decide, if you have had multiple years of attempts in this exam, by now it is expected that you should be in either of the 2 categories. Right? So because every current affairs almost touches upon something that would have happened in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Right? And having a continuous watch on that will definitely keep some amount of residual memory in you, which will all help you in getting some options right. Correct? So it is expected that you would be in this position where you have learnt a lot from your tests. Multiple prelims attempts itself would have given you some learning about how different current affairs are asked. Okay, because unlike the past, there was one year I still remember in 2016 or 15, I think, people used to claim it is from this compilation 30 questions in prelims have come from. Today nobody can make such a claim. And today if people are making such claim, it's simply because information is readily available. Right? Internet is there. somebody who makes all these materials, compilations, can have access to thousands of GBs of material. So it's very natural. If you have thousands of GBs of material, you can always say that this is from my material, this is from my material. But that is not possible for an aspirant to read. So what I'm trying to say is that figure out a way to find out where you actually fit in. Would this kind of a strategy work for you, or will this work for you, right? So compartmentalize your time. Compartmentalize your time in such a way that I wouldn't want to give a single prescription, 3 years of history, 3 years of polity. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm simply trying to say that you have to study for 10 years, and out of which make sure at least for areas where it seems to be connected with mains areas, right? For example, it's only if you would have prepared for post-independence consolidation, if you have read PIC, you could have got an answer in prelims last year in 2024, correct? There was a question asked about different leaders and different political parties they have started, right? So Rajagopalachari, Swatantra Party, it was given. This is a knowledge that you could have only gained if you would have prepared for post-independence consolidation. And similarly, there are questions on, in 2023 polity paper, I would say the most difficult of all time when it comes to Indian polity and constitution was 2023, right? There are at least 3 or 4 questions which you could have got right only if some mains preparation would have gone as a part of your prelims preparation. Simply mastering the provisions of Lakshmikant alone could not have helped you get the polity questions right, which is very good. UPSC is testing aspirants who can integrate the preparation process together. And most people who crack will always say the statement that preparation is integrated, which is very, very true. You cannot start your mains after prelims, mains preparation after prelims. You cannot start your personality test preparation after mains. It's an ongoing process. Even the very minute that you're listening to me, it's a part of your training for personality test. Depends on how you actually utilize this session, right? So everything is actually interconnected, and that interconnectedness will also come to your help in this examination. So you see that understanding this, again, I would put that in abilities, right? Understanding that this is also an area which I should actually prepare for. For example, it's only when you would have had a very good idea on judicial activism. If you would have had a very good idea about judicial activism, you can understand how Article 21, which talks about procedure established by law, this was given a very new interpretation by the Supreme Court, right? And why? What is the logic behind Supreme Court finding the procedure established by law framework to be deficient, to be inadequate for the needs of the society because of certain reasons? And those reasons are what could have got an answer in 2023 in polity, right? The question was, the term due process of law would refer to, and 4 statements were given. Okay, no amount of prelims preparation can help you tackle this. Okay, so this is the reason why I would say that approach the next 100 days with a curious mindset. Okay, approach the next 100 days with a cheerful mindset that you are going to understand a lot about this exam process in the next 100 days. It's only when you operate under constraints of time, you will operate at the highest level of your alertness, highest level of your productivity, efficiency. And this 100 days can be such an opportunity, right? So in the next 100 days, approach every day that you have to learn at least one new aspect about this examination. One new aspect about the interconnectedness between prelims and mains. Okay, or it could be one new aspect that questions in economy, most questions from current affairs, okay, whatever you may prepare, there is still a possibility of going wrong on the day of the exam. That could be one learning. It's only when you have your own original derived learning from the way you look at questions, only then the course correction measures can be initiated on your own side with conviction that this is what is going to work, right? Whereas if I say, you see, this is my takeaway from economy and this is what you have to do from today onwards, 2 days after that you will give up on my methods. But if this learning and realization comes intrinsic from within yourself, the course correction measures that you adopt will be sustained not only in the 100 days but throughout the year, and this will become slowly a habit. This will become a part of your behavior, a personality itself. right? And it is that personality which will become a winning personality. Okay, so approach the next 100 days with the opportunity to learn about UPSC. Okay, you have had knowledge. Whether the knowledge is sufficient or not is it's to be tested in the next 100 days. So once you find that certain things are insufficient, now you learn the methods to fill in those insufficiencies, right? It could be in the form of reading from Lakshmikant again and again, even to understand that multiple readings of Lakshmikant will get me almost all polity questions right. The next 100 days can be put to use. Okay, so this is the broad scheme of this discussion. Okay, this is the broad inputs that I wanted to give it to you. So if there are specific queries, I can take your queries. The live chat is active. So if there are any questions, you can type in and I'll take your questions. Right. How to analyze the test paper after getting 30 to 40 questions wrong? Okay, 30 to 40 questions wrong. Fine. Which subjects? Let's say out of them, you thought you were very good with polity. Okay, you thought that your Lakshmikant has now become brown in color, it has become soiled. So you felt that you have read so many readings of Lakshmikant. But still, if you are making a mistake, let me tell you, it's just the last mistake that you will be doing here. The minute you make a mistake, it will not be a mistake anymore, because you need to make mistakes. So do not be worried that 30-40 questions have gone wrong, but understand that, okay, 30-40 questions have shown to you what more areas of Lakshmikant book have to be selectively focused. Now go and read that until you understand that, right? Get to the specifics. So the nature of questions asked in polity last 2 years, very specifics are being asked. Okay, exact provisions, range of articles, which parts do what provisions actually come under, you know, re-exposures is all that you need. These are not rocket science. Cracking this exam is not very difficult math, physics, chemistry or anything. It's something that anybody can read and crack this exam. Are you reading or not is the question, right? So do not be worried that you're making a lot of mistakes in the tests. Be happy that you have made mistakes, because next time you will not be making these mistakes, right? Even if you would have made 100 mistakes totally in all the tests in Lakshmikant, these are 100 different areas to master now. Okay, so I don't see a reason why you should be worried about making mistakes in your tests. Just that after you have read from these areas, now once again when you attempt a test, once again the same area, if it goes wrong, now you have to question why. Maybe is it because you just saw that area in your book and you just overlooked it, or did you care to think? See, when you're pained, when you're troubled that you have made a mistake, you will be totally restless. Okay, you cannot be satisfied until you have figured out why have you made a mistake. That mindset is what I mean by what has to be developed in the next 100 days, because that is the mindset which will help you overcome this problem. Next time you will not be making this mistake. But if you felt that, oh, this question has gone wrong, but totally I have got 60-70 marks, which is better than the previous test, you're not going to learn anything, right? So make a mistake, test why you have made a mistake. If it is after all from a static part, if it is after all from a textbook where the same question had been asked and you again made a mistake, you have to again ask why. Wait, the question is simply why. Okay, if it is a current affairs question, you read something about a particular species, some 4 points, right? So let's say you take the case of slender loris. Slender loris is a primate. Okay, it is a nocturnal primate. And now you think that, okay, Hulock gibbons, they are also another primates. And out of the statements given, fourth option is they are nocturnal. And you made wrong associations. You thought that, okay, slender loris is nocturnal, so Hulock gibbons will also be nocturnal. You know, that shows your deficiency in application of knowledge, right? Wrong application, wrong inferences are being drawn. So limit yourself. Don't think that in environment, nature has created species in very different ways. So one phenomenon observed in one animal cannot be straight away applied to another animal, right? So build that alertness, correct? So mistakes builds in you. How many questions should be attended for CSAT? Well, no, I don't have an answer for that. Okay, as much as you are comfortable with. Okay, because if I say 60, does it mean that if you are very weak in CSAT, you will still go and attempt 60? No, there are people who will even attempt all the questions also if they are capable, right? So no formula for all of that. Okay, studying. So can you please tell me the number of mock tests need to be attempted before prelims? Okay. See, my experience is very different in terms of aspirants that I have seen. I have seen aspirants who have not even gone to a mock test center. Right, there are so many test centers which all academies will now come up with for mock tests. There are aspirants who have not even gone for tests, and then there are aspirants who have taken 2-3 tests. Their obsession is like fully taking tests one after the other. So some of them would simply take tests only in their study room itself, in their house. Okay, there are no again concrete answers. So you take it as per your comfort levels. Okay, but simply taking tests alone is not the purpose. Even if you take one question that is of UPSC standard, that's much more meaningful than 100 simple PYQs. See, and another thing that I really want to emphasize is, what are you going to do with PYQs? Because I see a lot of YouTube videos made discussing 30 years PYQs, 40 years PYQs. Okay, don't waste your time into all of that. PYQs are simply your aid. It's just like a lighthouse. It can only show you, see, UPSC is going in this direction. I have a great respect for PYQs in making us understand the nature of questions, how UPSC frames, and whether the nature of questions that I attempt as a test, does it actually stand up to the same level of UPSC or not, to help me realize that UPSC's PYQs are wonderful aids. But if you are under the mistaken belief that simply memorizing answers for PYQs is going to crack this exam, you are utterly mistaken about how people crack this exam. Okay, this is again as a result of people, toppers, who say in interviews that I went through the PYQs of last 10-15 years, and immediately you think, oh, 15-20 years PYQs, I'll get the answer, I'm going to clear prelims. No. Okay, so what I'm saying is, from your understanding of PYQs, you will be able to analyze and understand what is that one question out of, let's say you attend 20 questions in a test, but there could be that one question which you feel that is really UPSC standard, and if you feel that out of 4 options you have come close with 3 options, you were right, just this one option I have missed out, again you will feel more confident about yourself. Okay, you cannot simply feel confident that you attended all 19 questions, all of them were correct. They could all be easy questions. If it's easy for you, it's easy for everybody else in this India. The competitive edge is only got in the difficult questions, how you handle them. Easy questions almost everybody will attempt, everybody can clear those questions also, right? So the point is, rely upon PYQs, okay, just to have a sense of where your present preparation is moving towards, but don't confine your preparation to PYQs, especially with respect to subjects like history. It's a disaster if you're going to only know the answers for the PYQs. In the last 10-15 years, I don't see any question in history repeating year after year. Maybe in environment, there could be mild repetitions, I wouldn't even say repetitions, it's reflections, right? For example, in 1 year, there could be a question asked about a particular chemical. Okay, the entire 4 options is only about that one particular chemical, or one particular new discovery which has been made, a new substance which has been discovered. 3 years down the line, or even in the very next year, one of the statement could be there, but there could be, or it could be a match the following type of question, where one question would be about this chemical, and here you have one of the statement here matched on the other side. Fine, you get an advantage, but what about the second, third and fourth choices matched? These are completely new that year. So you cannot say that simply PYQ is what is found here. Okay, do not fall victim to all these kind of strategy videos that are floating around on the internet. And another beautiful way of how you can waste your time is by watching those marathon sessions, right, which actually gets like million views and all of that. Such a waste of time. And who are the audience? Those who cannot sit and read themselves, who lack those ability, are the ones who are very comfortable sitting like a mute spectator and watching a session go on for 9 hours, 10 hours. Okay, this is an exam that you have to crack with your original efforts, your effort of reading. Okay, what the faculty may be discussing in 10 hours, how can a subject, how can an entire history or entire polity be condensed within 9 hours? Think logically. You need more and more amount of time. You need 40 hours, 50 hours. So that 9 hours, I'll tell you what is the use of that. That 9 hours will only tell you the difference between the passage of money bill and an ordinary bill, as if you don't know the difference between that. And why are you spending another 20 minutes watching all of this and wasting your time? But will that 9 hours teach you the philosophy of due process of law, which is what you want to get the difficult question right? It will not. Right? So similarly, when you attempt tests as well, the same caution that you should not attempt unlimited tests and waste your time. Don't get exhausted by tests. Okay, I can show you 100 for every one person who cracks by saying that I attempted 3 tests for prelims. I can show you another 100 people who would have also done the same drill, 3 test series of 3 different academies, and still not even getting 40-50 marks. It is all about that one question and the realization and the learning that follows what matters. All right. Okay, time should one invest? See, how much time should one invest in PT 365? Okay, it's not only with PT 365, but with any academy material that you choose. Somebody would like PT 365, somebody would like Shankar's material, right? Whatever material you choose, understand it is after all just one reading, and after that you have to forget about it. If you ask me, I saw the PT 365 of environment recently. I felt it is so useless. I can openly say that. It's such a useless book which has come out in the recent days. Okay, so it is. So I would say that. But if you still want to not feel being left out, just one round, go through it. Okay, but just move on from that. Right? Understand there is more to browse, more to learn. Right? Yes, you're right. Handling the difficult questions is what actually makes the difference in prelims. Not only in prelims, getting good ranks in mains. In every paper in mains, if there are 20 questions, there are only 2 or 3 difficult questions, and it is those difficult questions which segregates all India rank 1 to 50 from the rest. All right. So every stage that is the case. It's not only with prelims. After completing a subject thoroughly, and if I attend a test on the subject, I am able to get only 40 to 42 questions out of 100. What should I do to increase it to 75 to 80? Okay, so I cannot suggest to you unless I see what kind of questions you make a mistake, right? What kind of questions do you go wrong? I need to see a pattern to how you make a mistake. Okay, not just from what you say. I need to find out why you say what you say. All right. Maybe you can send a mail, or you can just search my name on Telegram and you can drop a message to me. Maybe when I see the continuous reason why you fail to get, only then I can make a diagnosis of the problem. Shall I focus on static areas and daily newspaper to get a hold instead of trying to cover all areas like yearly current affairs? Exactly. Yeah, from a fresher, you only have to do that much. So that at the end of 100 days, you get a very valuable learning that you are capable, you are any day fit to crack this exam one day. Okay, see, the minute you see that from the subjects that you were quite good at, you get 60%. It means that the subjects that you are yet to master, you only need another 1 more year. Right? That realization, if it comes, you are finished. Nobody is going to stop you from cracking this exam. Make that as the goal. So, all right, I think it's time we wind up the session, wind up the discussion. So I hope it was helpful, and if you have any other question, studying current affairs feels so hard, then don't read current affairs. Okay. Anything that feels hard, it means that you are not doing it rightly. Okay, do whatever feels easy on you. Okay, if you simply like reading only polity, just keep reading polity, keep mastering it. But understand that only with that you cannot crack. You will take some more time. Okay, the point of this exam is to start loving this process. Okay, and so when you do things which are hard, you will soon give up on this exam. In fact, when I started my preparation, the very first book I brought to learn and prepare for this exam was Ancient India, written, it was by some publication. There was a publication called Pratyogita Darpan back then, right? So Pratyogita Darpan, they come out printouts with the study material for all subjects. So I took Pratyogita Darpan's material, started reading. Okay, I seriously thought within 3-4 days I'll probably quit this exam. Maybe I should start thinking about CAT exam. All those thoughts came into my mind. Okay, then with time, with another 6 months, things will all settle down. Then you realize that the best way to prepare is to simply do what you like doing, right? If you do not like doing something, you just have to just stop doing it. Otherwise, you will quit this process. All right. So, okay, how to analyze previous year's questions? Okay, that's an important question. How do you analyze a previous year question? What do you have to look when you look at a PYQ? When you look at a PYQ, first thing, don't look out for which book it is asked from. Because after prelims, no, videos will be made. They will say that this is asked from this NCRT, this is asked from this corner of this NCRT. But a topper who cracks prelims wouldn't have read this from an NCRT. There could have been so many other ways, maybe through a faculty, maybe through a test discussion, through some other coaching academies, test compilations. When he went through the answer key, there could have been some spotting done, right? So I wouldn't say that as soon as you see a question, go for the source of it. That is not going to work out, right? Because as somebody pointed out, you don't feel the same happiness and enthusiasm when you read each and every book of different subjects. Don't do source hunting and all of that. Just understand UPSC will ask from some set of books. UPSC asks based on what has happened in the last 1 or 2 years. That's UPSC's way of doing things. You don't have to go hunting each and every book and now thinking that, okay, next year's questions are also going to come from that. No. When you look at PYQs, just look at it and think, is it something that is normally discussed in the classes or not? Or is it something that is normally there in what I have read? Let's say Lakshmikant, is it there in Lakshmikant? Or is it there in Spectrum? Right? Is it there in the normal textbooks that I or any other aspirant generally reads? Is it there or not? Okay. Or is this topic itself completely out of the box? Is it like a first time you're in the life you're hearing about this topic? For example, in one of the year there was a question asked about committed judiciary. Right? So which of the following best explains committed judiciary? A, B, C, D. 4 options were given. Okay, one of the option was that a judiciary which upholds the rule of law. That is first. D is a judiciary where the concept of separation of powers is diluted. That was there. And then B and C, some 2 other options were there. Right? Many aspirants that year, they felt that what is this word? It's for the first time I'm hearing committed judiciary, and they literally interpreted it, committed judiciary, somebody who is very sincere and serious about their work, and they said they went for the first option, a judiciary which is best. Okay, but somebody who would have had an idea about this word called as committed bureaucracy, if you would have been a public administration optional student, it is very natural you would have encountered committed bureaucracy, which means that bureaucracy which simply toes the party political line. Okay, in India we have a neutral bureaucracy, who, whether it's BJP or Congress who rules, bureaucrats are independent, they don't have to have party affiliation, right? So somebody who would have heard the word committed bureaucracy could have applied the same logic here and could have got it right. So when you look at PYQ, when you look at this question, this is the next thing to wonder about. Why is it that these kind of allied ideas, allied areas is something that's not at all coming to my awareness? What am I missing out? Maybe you're missing out reading good documents, good articles, good editorials. All of that some way or the other would have brought in all these kind of ideas to you. Right? It's only when you know the root cause of why there is a deficiency of knowledge, you can actually start addressing it. Okay. So when you look at PYQs with an objective to understand what more beyond the textbooks are you supposed to do. Right? To be honest, when I looked at this question, I actually had the answer for this question, and the only reason for that is not because I have read it from anywhere. 12, 14 years back when one faculty had taught me, right? Somewhere in the middle of the discussion, that faculty had used this word, and I could really remember the exact moment when that word was brought to my attention, right? If not for that one class, I would not have actually known the answer on this day of this exam. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. PYQs can help you have a reality check of all those exposures that you are receiving in the course of your preparation. And especially last year when the mains examination had got over, in society, paper 1 society, there was a question asked: is India going through a demographic winter? Right? And after that, there was a lot of talk going on in social media that this question is framed by UPSC based on a BBC documentary. There was a documentary made some months ago. In that, the word demographic winter was being used. So hence, UPSC has framed a question like that. That's a very wrong way of understanding UPSC. Okay, you don't have to know exactly what is demographic winter. If you know the traits and character of winter, you can simply apply that to demography and understand that, okay, winter refers to a period of contraction. So demographic winter, just interpret it that way, right? But you have to just first come to this awareness that winter means a period of contraction. It can even come through watching Game of Thrones, right? When you watch Game of Thrones, there is always a reference that's made. Jon Snow says winter is coming, so we have to brace up for the winter. We have to keep our stocks ready, right? We have to keep firewood, food and everything kept ready, right? So the awareness can simply just come through various channels. It simply need not be confined to bookish knowledge alone. So the point is, when you look at PYQs, it's time to question yourself whether you're too bookish, too reliant on only the set of books that you have, or do you have that ability to connect this to so many different other inputs that you have received in your life on a daily basis or not. You know, that can be one way of looking at PYQs. Next way of looking at PYQs is looking at why is UPSC asking very difficult questions from familiar areas and very superficial questions from unfamiliar areas. This is UPSC's way of actually asking questions. UPSC will never go into very extreme level of depths when it comes to AI, cryptocurrency, only superficial level of questions, not more than that. But if it is about money bill, UPSC will go to the depth and it will ask you, out of these 4 options, which is not a definition of money bill. There you need precision to understand this particular fact, that in unfamiliar areas UPSC limits itself to the superficial aspects, whereas familiar, it goes to the depth. UPSC will go and ask everything about elephant, its pregnancy cycle, how many calves does it yield per pregnancy. But UPSC wouldn't do this for a new species which is being discovered somewhere in some remote part of the world, right? So this is the formula, right? What is known to us on a daily life: tiger, cheetah, lion, elephants, rhinoceros, right? UPSC will go to the depths, right? So getting this idea reinforced in your mind, analyzing PYQs can be helpful. Okay, and also to understand that whether the difficulty level of UPSC's question is increasing or is it decreasing, to get a hold of that. Okay, so that you can prioritize. Okay, CSAT paper has got difficult in the last 2 years, so let me give every day 1 to 2 hours of time, let me focus only on CSAT paper. To even make those kind of prioritizations, looking at PYQs would become important. I see PYQs role only important in these ways. The only thing I'm very sure that PYQs should not be put into use is source hunting. That's a very reactive way of approaching UPSC. UPSC can simply move to a new source next year and you're finished with that, right? Okay, you have been taking Hindu news editorials, but you don't know how to apply those things in mains. We will discuss that after prelims. All right, I think more or less we have reached the conclusion. So thank you, and I wish you all the best in the upcoming prelims. All right. Okay. So we can put an end to the session. Thank you.